Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. I should see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today. I've got a big day of recording a lot of things ahead. Say stretch. Yeah, I got a lot today. Very much going to try and build up the backlog of videos which we have. Not so today and tomorrow will be a lot of recording essentially. So that's why we're getting an early start to all of this, and we'll see where we go from here. But hello everyone, right now in Fawnhallow, it's 12 PM on Saturday, June 1st, 2024. Yes, we have a new month, I suppose. So, you know, anything which occurs monthly, rolling over, welcome it with open arms. Now is the time. But yes, what should we talk about? Apparently did I sell something? No, you know what? This must be Harvey calling about Reese and Cyrus having their wedding thing, which we're not going to participate in. It's been 5 years of doing that, and you know, I suppose go back to year one. I suppose if you want me to actually do a lot of the actual proper customizations, rather than some of the later ones. I think I just put down a load of benches, didn't I, or something? I don't remember if I did anything for some of the later ones. Anything to get the currency, or is it the wedding vow currency, or whatnot, what have you. 1st of June. You know what? I was going to create a new Neopet today, because I wanted a Neopet born in June. I had too many of them born in May, which if anything is indicative of when the Fairy Quest event starts happening again, because that's when I start playing again, because I was like, it's a free chance to get my pets painted. Anywho's, I need to think of a name though. See, like naming things, or you know, this rings especially true, I suppose, when it comes to the fact that I'm now a DM for a couple of campaigns. Naming things is always very difficult, I think, because I'm no stranger to making characters for things or DMs, my own like personal like stories and that sort of thing, or for games I play, e.g. like Neopets. But coming up with names is definitely always one of the hardest things, I think. And it's not because that like picking a name is all that difficult. I mean, like you can do it like whatever. Be like, oh, what am I gonna name this character? I don't know. I'll call them Ivy. I'll call them like Maple or something. There you go. You can never really go too wrong, I suppose, with a plant-based name, in my opinion. But the thing is, like, it's about naming. Like, this is definitely me way overthinking it. But not the point of name. Oh no. Well, we had to talk to you eventually, right? Well, actually, can I just walk past you? It's not a forced cutscene, is it? No, it's a forced cutscene. I was like, there's no forced cutscenes in this game. Anyway, we're just here to talk to Katrina, to be honest. So, please don't forcibly bring us into the wedding thing. Please don't. No. Okay, well, we'll see if we can immediately leave after just tossing down random junk, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, what I was going to say is like naming things is always very difficult because, okay, at least from perspective of like writing a story, in my opinion, you might not share the same sentiment, which I think is totally fine. I mean, you don't have to share the same sentiment. But when writing a story, often you control every single part of the story, right? You control literally the entire world, the scenery, the characters, the way they act, the choices they made, the themes you explore. You, as an author or a creator of a story, no matter, I suppose, what medium you choose to use, are in literal control of everything. Let's just put a load of candles down. I don't know if there's a limit for the amount of candles we can put down, but we're just going to fill it up. You are in control of literally everything. So, to me, I suppose, it kind of... we need to make sure we actually have a way out, I think. You kind of need to think about what you're putting down, such that... Oh, we need to take a picture, I forgot. That's the entire thing. Look, I'm here. Yeah, well, when you're the creator of a story, you're in control of literally everything, which to me is sort of just like, oh, that means it's not like literal thought needs to put in every single aspect you do, but it's more like if you choose something, you might as well choose it such that it adds to the story rather than being neutral or taking away from it. And thus, you know, that sort of extends to character names as well. Sort of being like choosing a character name which feels fitting for the character, because this is not reality, you know. We're not beholden to a reality where it's just like, oh, you know, this person's like a superhero, and instead of having a name Superman or something, they just go by the name of like George or something, because, you know, reality is different from fiction in every sense. We can have these funky coincidences and it can work out, you know, like, I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example or something, but you know, like how Usain Bolt was the fastest man in the world for one. I don't know if he still is necessarily. Honestly, I don't keep up with that. But Usain Bolt, I mean, it sounds like a very fitting name for him. I forget there's a term for this sort of thing where like your name fits the characteristics you evoke or employ, right? So in the same sort of vein, it's just like you should. And you don't have to, of course. At the end of the day, sometimes you just want like a normal name for something, but it feels more befitting, at least personally to me, if you name your character after something, not after something, which has, then the character's name has relation to who they are as a character. And I'm trying to think of some good examples off the top of my head. I guess I can pick some for my D&D campaign. Or something like there's one character who's Pinky. He's kind of like, he's not like a mob boss, I suppose. He's more like an underground organization leader, that sort of thing. But you might be like, why did you call him Pinky? Well, it's you know, spoilers, I suppose, if you're in this camp. Well, it's not really spoilers, I suppose, but because you can figure this out. But more like, here's some backstory, I suppose, if you are part of this campaign. But Pinky, for one, he's sort of like what should I say? He's a much more feminine presenting, I suppose, man. And with that, you know, he doesn't necessarily shy away from seeming cute. I mean, you know, he's quite small and like life, I suppose, and that sort of thing, which is, you know, meant to play in direct contrast that he's actually like quite like a mastermind behind these sort of like operations and these sort of things. And Pinky, you know, one inspired, I suppose, maybe partially by Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony, but Pinky is a very sort of energetic, like wild, not completely like the intention was he was meant to be quite a chaotic character, but it turns out my group is way more chaotic than, you know, even he is. But he's meant to be sort of like a wild card, but who has got like his head screwed on straight when it comes to actually being like a leader for his organization. But Pinky sort of evokes these sort of like really cheerful, bubbly personality things, which fits him. But also Pinky is a much more sort of like cutesy sounding name. It sounds like a nickname for someone, which again fits him as well. And then Pinky being the final thing, his organisation is called Promise to Samia, and it's meant to be a pinky promise because they all wear these like red ribbons around their pinky finger. Because it's meant to be like this alliance formed by promises between, well, you know, allies, right? So it's sort of like a triple meaning or triple inspiration based name. And it's just like, you know, I could have named him just like I don't know, like Clive or something, and you know, that'd been fine. Like I'm sure my players would still, you know, attached to him in the same way, but Pinky immediately like conveys what this character sounds like they're going to be. They sound like they're going to be some sort of cutesy, maybe like energetic character. And then when you hear the organization's promise to Samia, a pinky promise sort of like evokes that feeling of like camaraderie, trust, allyship, etc, etc. And I'm sure there's subtle things like that where it sounds like, I mean, obviously story wise, then he was presented in a way where it was like, oh yeah, he was going to be a trusted ally. But even if you didn't have all that context, I mean, maybe this is a better question for those of you who are not part of this DM campaign. It sounds like he would be a trusted character, and it sounds like he'd be like a ball of energy to be around or something. And that's like kind of what I'm talking about. Like these character names you have should evoke, give impressions of characters, because at the end of the day, names have, it's not only do they have meaning, they have like impressions and connotations which come with it. And being able to choose something from it, you know, is nice. I mean, it often goes with, you know, things like naming gods as well, I suppose. Like, again, a D&D campaign perspective, but also for characters, that a very common thing which people do, I do as well, is I take something like, say, I'm trying to make a fire god or something, and then I just translate fire into a load of different languages, or whatever inspirational language is for that region, etc., or whatever culture, you know, I'm trying to draw from, and then I'll take that and then either use it as is or change it around as a base name, that sort of thing. Like I'm trying to think, like one of the deities I have in my DMD campaign is called Yongmi, and she is like the deity. And I'm trying to think of someone, trying to think of one of the deities which is known throughout both campaigns like reasonably well. So there's no spoilers or anything, but she's like the deity of beauty and creation, inspiration, that sort of thing, purity. So her name is Yongmi, and the region that she's like sort of heralded, like her kingdom, is one which is very much inspired by East Asia, so like think China, Japan, Korea. So her name is sort of like an amalgamation. Like the benefit is I do know like both Chinese and Japanese like pretty decently well, and I don't know Korean that well, but I know it like ishili. So her name is sort of meant to like marry those three inspirations together. Like her name is sort of passed as an eternal beauty, Yong from like Yongyan in Chinese, which means forever, and Mi just being, well, actually Mi kind of means beauty, and like I think all three of the languages, I think, because they have a lot of shared like roots if you go back far enough. But I used it with like a Korean spelling, so I took like Chinese, Japanese, and then made it a Korean like spelling of it to be Yongmi, and that, you know, it sounds like, for one, very much this like serves a double purpose of very much tying it down to the region, which is called Miyabiku, this East Asian inspired region, that if you have a passing knowledge of like Chinese, Japanese or Korean, you would hear that name and you would be like, oh, you know, all of the names from this region tend to be inspired by this language. I know exactly where this deity is like presiding over. And then also it's quite like a smooth sounding name, I suppose. In my opinion, it doesn't have any like hard consonants in it. Like Yongmi is very sort of like flowing, I think, which again it sort of like adds to the idea of like beauty, of like grace and elegance to it. And then it has like of course the meaning behind it as well from the original source languages. And then it kind of like goes like that with all the deities. I won't say like every character I've ever made in the D&D campaign has that. Some of them I've just improvised off the top of my head. Some of them I just chose because they kind of sounded nice. Like I'm trying to think of a good example. Like one of the characters is just called like Lulu in one of the campaigns. I know, it's just like, just kind of sounds like, actually there's like an equivalent character called Kiki. Not an equivalent character, but also a character with the same sort of like echoed name. But to be fair, Kiki was a character I played ages ago in a previous campaign, but like I repurposed her and like actually and changed her up a decent, well, not a decent amount, but this is more like Kiki 2.0. Like the Kiki I played in the original campaign, she was like a glamour bard. Or she was going to be a glamour bard, but you know, after like that campaign, like didn't go too much further because of, you know, scheduling conflicts and all that. But I didn't go like I made her a glamour bard, and when I thought about it, and I was like, this story like is overly dramatic and it doesn't make sense, and I'm like, I don't know why she's a glamour bard, but like I like core concepts of this, so I took, oh, Twiggy, you have such a cute like voice. But it's basically taking concepts from that and like making her into a new character. And the reason that I called her Kiki in the first place is because, you know, she's a kobold and she was originally a wild kobold who got taken in essentially by a wizard. And the idea was that she didn't know common, which is when sort of like the language which everyone speaks in a fantasy realm. She didn't know common, so she just like she could only make very simple sounds to begin with, and then like in my mind, Yip Yak, which is meant to be like the kobold language, or like the kobold version of Draconic, is very sort of like, in my mind it would be a very sharp sounding language of lots of like hard consonants over and over. I mean, it's her name, Yip Yak. It doesn't sound like very sharp in the first place. So I was just like, she could probably only make basic sounds, and maybe one sounds that she would be able to make would be like Ki or something. So Kiki repeats it, and it's a cutesy sounding name. So it's just like, again, doing all this like double lifting when it comes to things. Because there's a lot behind a name, you know. A rose by any other name would smell just as sweet, but a rose by any other name would give it a very different impression as well. So it's sort of like a subtle, not mind hacking, that's definitely the wrong way to put it, but like subtle hinting at like what a character might be like, and like the impression you give. It's sort of just like, it's another tool in the arsenal of a creator's toolbox to be able to give an impression of a character just by their name, just the same way as like giving a character the impression of a character through their design choices. Like, why wouldn't you try and choose a name which evokes what you want to explore or be said about this character? It just makes sense, in my opinion. But your mileage may vary. Some people very much, don't care about that, which is totally fair. Some people, like, some of the stories behind these names, behind these designs, etc., for characters will never see the light of day, and that's okay. That's just how it is, to be honest. Obviously, you should only put that much thought in if you really care a lot about it. Otherwise, it's arbitrary at the end of the day. You might as well just sort of name things whatever you want, which is totally fine as well. Like, I don't want to give the impression that it's wrong to be like, oh, this character's name is like Jessica or something. Why? Don't know. Just kind of sounded nice, because that's totally fair. Well, you don't have to put all this thought in, but at least for me personally, when I write these stories, I'm just like, yes, why not? And then you might be like, isn't it ironic then that your character's name is D just because she's a deer? There's not like, that's like the simplest thing that could happen. To be fair, this character didn't actually have a name, except for also, I guess, like Dear Darling. And then I was like, okay, I kind of want a distinction between the character and me. Because otherwise people just put dear for both of them, and I'm like, are you talking to me or are you talking about character? Obviously it's obvious on context, but still. So, I actually don't know what the etymology is behind the word D, so let's see if it has any meaning behind the name. Also, like, baby naming sites, fantastic for when you want to try and get some names down. D, what? A short form of names beginning with D. Okay. So I guess it depends whatever the main name is. It could also be a gender-neutral name of Welsh origin meaning dark or black. Definitely not particularly fitting, I think, for Dee herself. What? So there's possible multiple meanings depending on the origin. Well, seeing as this origin is from deer, then I guess it's just meant to be evocative of the fact that she's a deer, which is fair enough. Let's say D. I was just trying to fit what to do for flavor text for deer. So I guess that's the meaning behind Dee's name, unsurprisingly. And let's put a really tiny D there. Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't really think about it. I mean, most of word, like the name it like originates from, seems to be some sort of variation of Dorothy or something. What does Dorothy even mean? The river in Scotland. Celtic root possibly meaning divine. That'd be interesting. Dorothy. Usual English form of Dorothy. Gift of God from Greek. Interesting. Again, that's not really evocative of necessarily what D is. I mean, unless in some sort of very grandiose sense. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, coming up with names is a really fun thing, to try and find something which is genuinely fitting. And be like, oh yes, this is the sort of thing which would work with this character, and like it evokes this sort of concept behind it. So anyway, I need to go think of a name for this Neopet now. Cycle. I basically danced all the way around it. All my Neopet names are named after colours, essentially. So I don't know if I already came up with a name. No, I haven't really come up with a name, so I'll do that in a second. Anyway, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.